if it's your own business, you can put your own hours. You can do whatever you want.
Surprise, your first business is probably not going to work.
Until you actually experience it, it's never going to hit home. Some businesses say they want to grow, but they don't actually want to grow. They just want more money.
Something bad always has to happen. It's usually from something negative, but that's why they fail.
No one's ever going to want it as bad as you.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Totem Podcast. I'm your host, Monico Carrillo. And don't forget that an act of rebellion is to question. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm already stuttering this
Please
morning.
remember to subscribe.
Yeah, there you go. See, he got it.
Yeah.
So today we got a very special guest with us. I think it's interesting the position that she's in, because we always talk about like business, Eric, how we're talking about like someone, it's hard. We're marketing businesses, so it's hard for someone to tell you how to market their business when they're not even in the area or in the industry. So our guest today is Kristin. She's the director of the economic development, and she knows her stuff, and she's from the area. So I think that's what makes it even better that she can actually give like advice or tips from actually living in the area, not from just some person coming down from the front range telling you how to go.
Yep.
So not just getting a city slicker down here and telling us how to run stuff over here.
Nope, I grew up in Akron, so I'm very familiar with the area. So
Yeah, I seen that.
Is that the background check you did on me?
Yeah, Akron. Yeah, so we grew up on a ranch. So
yeah.
my dad's ranch is in between Brush and Akron. Mm-hmm. So I was out there this weekend out there. So that's why I was like, oh, it's interesting that it was out there. But also, I think it's perfect for like the position you're in, because like your background, what you were doing before you were in economic development. Mm-hmm. I think that pretty much goes in hand, because you kind of know, I guess, the industry, the market, I guess you could say. I don't know the right word for it, but.
Are you referring to my appraisal background?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So I did appraisals in the area for about 7 years before I took on the role of director for MCEDC. So I actually lived in Sterling when I was, primarily when I started that business, and got very familiar with land values and some of the challenges with housing that we have, especially in doing all that. So it's handy when talking to the city slickers about development and land values and price of buildings and square foot, and they're often surprised that I am aware of the historical values and how to apply it today.
Do you think it's necessary for someone like in a position like yours to kind of know that stuff? Because a lot of the stuff we always have it like they say they're book smart, but they're not like street smart for like knowing the.
Yeah, I think experience is definitely helpful, but it depends on where you live. Like it's helpful for me because it's such a big area. If you own the city, a developer or somebody in economic development, they have a very small footprint that they're working with. And so they also have larger staff. So they probably have somebody on staff that's doing data and statistics and pulling all that information for them. It provided me the tools that I need to do that on my own now, because I don't have the extended staff that larger organizations do.
How do you go from because you said you started your own business doing that stuff. Mm-hmm. What made you kind of change direction and go into like the Warren County Economic Development Council? Because I mean, you came in at the perfect time, January of 2020, right before COVID hit.
Is that perfect?
That was a pretty big curveball, like right off the bat.
Well, I don't know how much digging you did into my background, but growing up in Akron, my dad actually was the president of economic development when they had one in Washington County, and I think it was specific to Akron. But my senior year, I worked in the office and wrote the fact book for Washington County in their economic development office. So I had the background in that. Alongside my dad also being an appraiser for a really long time. So when I started a family, kids are a lot and they're time consuming. And so I needed a job and wanted a job where it was flexible so that I could be a good mom and be there for them when they needed me. So that was kind of the way that started for the appraisal piece. Then they got in school and I worked from home. So I wanted more engagement with people and to get out and do stuff more. So I had applied for a couple of different jobs, and in interviewing for one, they called me afterwards and said, this is not a good fit for you. You should apply for this. So I applied for economic development and started in January of 2020.
Nice. I mean, it's so when you were appraising, that was your own business.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then, like someone might look at it and be like, if it's your own business, you can put your own hours. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
So was it just like more like the balance of it, because it was just more maybe traveling and stuff, and then having like a job is like more just secure, just like you just show up and go to work, or was that like a shift?
Well, with the kids being in school, they had a set schedule as far as they get dropped off at a certain time, picked up at a certain time. So going to a full-time job, there's the financial security of doing that. I think the bigger piece was just having a job where I talk to other adults more consistently.
Instead of just the kids all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Appraising was great, and it filled that need during the time, and it was an easy transition. It's a hard field to get into if you don't know somebody. With my dad being an appraiser for so long, it was really easy for me to get into it and start my own business and kind of do it on my own. So.
With that, though, Eric, you said that you can set your own hours as a business owner, but I mean, that's a double-edged.
Of course.
It allowed me to do some work during the day, whether it's at daycare or temporarily. But there were many times where I was up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning doing the work, because during the day I was taking care of them, or part-time daycare. So
that's the opposite side that people don't see. It's like, set your own hours, yes, but that does not mean you're working less hours. You're just working more hours, but you're like fixing like your personal stuff here and there, and most of the day is consumed by like just doing the work. Yeah,
and definitely, and when you're as a business owner, I think a lot of people go into it. I used to own a flower shop. I don't know if you knew that.
Yes, I did.
back in 2009.
That was a long time dream of mine to have the flower shop, and I worked in a flower shop in high school and in college, and so when that finally happened, it was kind of a paradigm shift in the reality of I was not actually designing the way I thought I would be at the flower shop. I was doing all the behind the scenes, and I hired people to do the designing. So that, if there was a large event, I would be involved in that. But that was another one where up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go buy flowers, drop them off so everybody else could have fun with them, and then there until 7 o'clock at night, closing out things and running reports and financials and planning for the next day's business. So, yeah.
So it kind of goes perfect because you had a couple businesses, like what business owners go through, and now you're kind of like helping them out with like the kind of the marketing side of it too.
I try to. There's a lot. I try to give the guidance of, especially if it's a hobby you're turning into a business, there's a ton that you don't realize. And unless there's a book smart, you go to college and you get a MBA or a degree in business management or administration, you have that book knowledge, but that application is always a challenge as well, because the book tells you to do this, but it never applies the way the book says it's going to. So there's that real life experience that I can bring and say, I get it. You really need to understand this to be successful and to not go under in 2 to 3 years. And so we, as an organization, trying to set up the tools through courses, but then other projects like the block, we saw a lot of people wanting to do restaurants. There's a huge investment. So I think that piece was really important, just to set a platform to test an idea so that you're not going under if it doesn't work. And it's funny, there have been a couple businesses go through that didn't work out. And as a board, they were kind of like, dang, that stings. I really wanted them to work out. But I was like, no, that's perfect. That was the goal of this, was to set up the platform to fail without ruining your entire life by investing everything up front.
Yeah, and I think people should just take advantage of it, because surprise, your first business is probably not going to work. Like that's probably the biggest shocker for all of us. When it's our first business, we're like, oh yeah. Like for me and Eric, we talked about it the other day. Like, this is our first business.
Yeah.
So you start learning a lot of stuff with it. But I kind of want to go back to where you were saying, like you started your first business stuff. I think social media does us a big lie that the entrepreneur, it's like this really flashy lifestyle that everything is going to be perfect, but what you don't see is that they're, like you said, they're working at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah. Well,
so what do you see in your perspective? What do you see like now, like since you've had a couple years, like seeing behind the scenes of businesses? Mm-hmm. What do you see now of like younger kids trying to get into jobs?
Well, everybody wants to be a YouTube star, right? Yeah. And there's the content creation and writing reviews for Amazon, and they'll pay you to do it. And all you have to do is take this course, and it's 7 days, and they set you up and they give you all the tools. I was curious, so I paid $7 for one of the things just to see what it's about and just what's everybody falling for. And, I make $20,000 a day. I made $100,000 yesterday. Like, who doesn't jump on that? Well, they sell the course over and over and over and over, and that's how they make the money.
So make money selling the course, not doing the actual work.
Yeah.
So how much money did you make?
I'm negative $7 right now. Something like early on, I read a book about starting a business, and it wasn't, it was just women in business and entrepreneurs. And it said, work 2 years in every piece of a business to learn how to do it. So, and then move on before you start your business. Before you go out and work 2 years in a job where you're doing finance and handling money for a business. And so every aspect. So I worked retail for a long time, and in that I got all of that knowledge just in retail, but moving through the different, starting as a merchandiser, a store man, and moving up to store manager. But I learned all those different pieces. So when I started my business, I had a pretty good idea, but there was still that I still was never a business owner. So I kind of had a understanding of all the pieces, but it was really important to work in every piece of business so that when I actually did it, I knew somewhat what I was doing. The time piece was a reality hit that I wasn't planning for, but that one book, I wish I could remember it, but it just said work in every piece of operating a business. Because I did not go to school for business. I have a degree in merchandising, but working in it.
And do you think that's a pro or a con?
What's that?
Like that you went to business? Because I have this thing that I always have, like the person teaching you how to be good in business at a college, they don't got a business themselves. So it's hard to tell someone to work out when you're eating donuts every day. You know kind of what I mean? So it's kind of like, that's the whole thing. Like with our business, like I don't tell someone to do marketing a certain way. Like I test it on our stuff first. Like that's why we create content. So they can see it like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Say it like this, don't say it like that. Like you start learning a bunch of this stuff, and I don't know. I just think it's interesting with the you go to college for, and then most of the people that go to, so there's the other one, that go to college to learn something about, they don't end up actually even working in that something. So that's why I think the trade skills are underappreciated, because that was my background. I was a trade.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, life experience in anything is going to get you far, in my opinion, will get you farther than any piece of paper that says you went to school to do something. I mean, yeah, you go to school and you get a piece of paper that says you graduated, you have a degree in this, and you're right, somebody had to be good at business to teach the class, but I can tell you everything I know about business. Until you actually experience it, it's never going to hit home.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and I have some like firsthand.
Actually, the one with the degree.
Yeah, I have firsthand experience with it, because I did go to like a 4-year university, because when I was growing up, like our dad had a business. So I was like, you know what, I want to be a business owner. I don't know what I want to be a business owner in. Yeah. I just know I want to own my own business. And I was like, okay, cool. What's the next common step or the next step, I guess, out of high school? I went to 4-year school. I was like, I'm going to get my business degree. And after taking a few classes, I was like, no. There was just a bunch of just random classes that you have to take, which is the problem with, like, I think with universities, just random classes. But then it's like the stuff that they're teaching you in there, it's not. I mean, like to a certain extent, I guess it is applicable, but it's like Monica was saying, the people there don't have experience really running their own business.
Yeah.
They're just teaching you from a textbook, but then I want to know what you did, not what the textbook says to do.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's why after like the first year, I was like, I'm done with business, whatever, and I just decided to just pivot and do something else.
Yeah. I actually started with interior design and kind of had the same, like, I don't really care about other people's houses, just mine. So the easiest transition to finish what I had started was merchandising, because I grew up in the generation where you get a 4-year degree. I really wanted to go to school for CAD, just get an associate's degree in computer-aided design. That's what I was interested in. But I was convinced that I had to get a 4-year degree. I learned merchandising is... I think when people think of it, they think of window displays. And in my mind, that's what I was thinking, is I'll go work for a big box store and do their window displays and design them. And there's a lot more math involved in that, because they go over all the different aspects of working in retail, from management to if you're a buyer and doing your the projections and the math involved in that, and if your sales are up and down. So there was some value in that I never thought I would use. The other piece is when you're learning in school, I was not a great student. I didn't have I had a good GPA because I was kind of lazy, and I took college classes while in high school. So I got more points. So I had a great GPA, but I wasn't interested in school itself. Like there are some kids that love school and reading, and that just wasn't me. But I learned that I just wasn't interested in how it was being taught. I excelled in math in college. I almost failed in high school, but it just wasn't being taught in a way that was interesting to me. Take me shopping and show me a 20% off sale. I can calculate every dollar point for you. Ask me when two boats are going to collide going at different speeds. I could care less. So I think that's really important too. In anything you consider in life is, especially if you're thinking of a business and you don't think you can do it because you're not good at something, apply it in a way that you are. I think you'd be surprised.
So do you think maybe it should be challenged the way I guess we're taught some stuff? Because I'm the same way. Math, I'm really good at math. I can do a lot of math in right off the bat without calculator. But I mean, my math teacher knows. I had like 40 missing assignments in my life because I didn't care. I guess I shouldn't care. It just wasn't interesting to me. Same with reading. Like I didn't read books. I have bookshelves now, but it's because just the subjects that were reading.
Right.
Trying to the reading books they give you. Like, I don't want to read those.
Yeah.
What are some of them? Eric knows them because he read them.
Well, I read some of them that were actually pretty good, like Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451. Those were the two ones that I remember that are super relatable to like now that people can read and stuff. But they don't have that. A lot of them don't tie that real world experience into it.
Yeah.
I want to, because on this subject, I like this quote, and you'll be familiarized with it. Is normalize sending kids to trade school without making them feel less than a 4-year university kids. Because that's kind of how it is. I think they kind of like, oh, you only went to 2-year or trade school? Like
they look down on them.
They kind of look down on them. But I think that's one of the industries that people right now, businesses are lacking, that they need more because nobody wants to do it. So they're actually like high paying jobs. They
are. And it's something, the other thing, you go into business to make money. And so there are some businesses that are trendy and they're just naturally going to fade away over time. And then what's your next plan? I think the thing about trades is they're always needed. It doesn't matter. Somebody's always going to have a leaky faucet or new houses are going to be built. There's always a need for trade. You're never going to be without a job. It's that business acumen that could cause you to go under. You're not invoicing your jobs properly. You're not receiving payments properly. You're not paying taxes. I think those are all those pieces that, and that's how I was convinced to go to college, is like, because I wanted to own my own business too, but I was told you should get a degree in business so that you know how to operate your business. I can tell you, even if I would have had a degree in business, I wouldn't have any idea how to run a business. I would have walked in so arrogant and just like, oh, this is how I do it. And, and it doesn't work like that. There's like the image that's on social media where they have the difference between a boss and a leader. Yeah. Like that a lot of people think it's the same thing, and it's not the same thing. It's not at all. Like you have to walk the walk. That's kind of like what we try to preach on, but what we try to do, because you don't want to be telling somebody to do something that you wouldn't do. So I have a hard time with that in my job. Is for a long time it was one person, and then I had an assistant, and I felt guilty asking, and I still do, asking them to do something that it's not beneath you. Like, no work is beneath anybody. Everybody has to work, and so somebody has to do everything. But I always feel kind of guilty saying, will you send this meeting reminder for me? I always feel a little bit guilty. So I'm like, why can't I do that? But the goal ultimately for me, the organization, is to get it to a place where I'm not needed, so that it's fine-tuned and it's running on its own and I'm not needed. I've trained everybody up to where if something happens to me or, some whatever, it's running on its own. And I feel like that's a good leader. I'm not afraid to give somebody a responsibility and have them mess up. I mean, that's how you learn to do it. So I think it's really important to, if you do have a team or a business, that your goal in making money is to have a strong team so that you're not needed eventually.
Well, what's your, I guess, delegating? What's your biggest struggle with it? Are you just thinking that they'll mess up doing it, or no? I don't care if you mess up. I want you to mess up. I mean, we all learn I learn if you mess up, how to, because then I learn how I could have set you up for success better, how I could have asked, set the task out differently. I think it is, for me, it's that
not wanting somebody to feel that what I'm asking them to do is that they're better than that, or that they.
Yeah. Like that you think you're better than them or something.
Yeah, and that's not it at all. Like, schedule a meeting for me. Well, I could go do it, and I can do it. One, I've hired somebody to help me with that piece, and so I have that is their job. But it seems like such a simple task, but I forget to do it all the time. So
that probably frees you up to be able to actually handle the big problems you actually need to take care of.
Yeah.
Prioritize priorities. But with that, delegation's one of them. What are some other things that you think that business owners struggle with, or that keeps them from not just growing but being able to thrive? Because that's a whole different thing. But a lot of people, they just want to grow, but they don't really want to grow. They want to thrive, or you want to make more money. But what are some things that you see that hold business owners back?
I think, so MCEDC, we have a revolving loan fund. So we review business plans and applications frequently. And one of the things we consistently see a gap in is that just financial acumen in business, and knowing how to set up a balance sheet, cash flow analysis, but then how to use that data to grow. Because the other piece we've talked about is some businesses say they want to grow, but they don't actually want to grow. They just want more money.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding just the ins and outs of business finance and funding. And I mean, they have whole degrees in business finance. So there's just tons of different avenues. But I think just that basic knowledge and awareness of finance and business finance, because finance is different on a bunch of different scales, but just a basic understanding so that you can pull up reports and look at it and say, historically, this is a light month. We'll take the flower shop, for example. I purchased an existing flower shop, so I had years of data. And Valentine's Day, it's the second biggest sales day of the year. Mother's Day is number one. It falls on the same day every year. Second Sunday in May, whatever it is.
Sometime
Your mom, you should know.
You're a son, you should know too, right?
Right?
You too, you're a son, Eric. Let's see it.
But Valentine's Day, February 14th is on a different day every year. So if Valentine's Day is on a Thursday, it's one of the worst. If it's Thursday or Friday, it's two of the worst days for people to buy flowers, because you're planning a weekend away. So you're not buying flowers, you're traveling. And if you're buying flowers, you're not buying them locally, you're buying them wherever you're going. So I had reports proving that, and that historical data to show me that, last year was a Wednesday, great day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, great days. I could double my order for roses on those days and have no problem selling them. But I had to reduce by at least 50% on a Thursday or a Friday for Valentine's Day, or I wouldn't be able to sell through, and I would have a ton of wasted product. Any business, when you're looking at sales trends, you want to have that data or look at different things. It might be just on a weekly basis. Monday's not a lot of business, so a restaurant might close on Mondays, and then Tuesday, just reading the numbers and following your sales to know what your trends are, so you can be more effective in buying product or whatever it is that you're doing. And it might be for staffing. Working in retail, weekends are busiest, so you double up on staff and you have call-ins in case somebody doesn't show, but you're prepared for it in that staff scheduling. So kind of all those little pieces that drive those dollars, knowing how to look at them and how to use them to project and plan for your future business so that you can grow.
Interesting. And at that time, did you have other employees, or was it just you?
At the flower shop?
Yeah.
I had, when I bought the business, there were 2 full-time staff, and we had drivers that did things differently. One of the first things I did is I moved the location of the flower shop, and looking at the money, I was paying $3,000 a month for the space, but I was only using 25% of the space. So I downsized and was paying less than $1,000 a month for rent, and was able to keep everybody on in our revenue. The first year I did it, there was a $50,000 positive swing in revenue just from making that tweak to it.
And that's exactly where that quote we just said goes. Like, they just want to make more money. So sometimes there's people are throwing money at random things that don't even, I guess,
But it's that perspective thing, because they're in a bigger spot, so they think they're doing better. But in reality, they're losing so much money because they're not tracking their stuff. They're not analyzing, like, is this actually ideal for them or not.
And you can break it down. Like for the flower shop, I could break it down in sales, so per square foot. and say I had 3,000 square feet, I was only using 25%. That didn't make sense. If you break it down like per daily sales and what I have to make in sales per day to pay for 3,000 square feet. Whereas if I downsize and I just have kind of a small studio, I'm still going to make the same sales because I didn't have a ton of walk-in traffic. It was mainly deliveries or events. I didn't need a huge retail space to sell product. I could reduce the product, also saving money and increasing revenue. And then just general overhead was reduced in that by doing the same thing.
You've been in business, I mean, for a couple of years, you know, the back end of stuff. How has it been as you, as a woman, pretty much like the one in charge, dealing with other people, like distributors or whatever it is,
men?
or with other men? Yeah, because it's a heavy male dominated industry.
Yeah.
How has that? Have you had stuff where you like they don't take you serious at the beginning or something, or how are those conversations like?
Yeah, I think locally, I don't think that's been an issue. I always start the conversation if I grew up in Akron, and it completely changes the conversation just by saying that. On a broader scope, when people call the office, they might be from New York and they're looking at doing a project here or want data. They'll throw out numbers for a building in square footage, and I'll ask them about, the return they're looking per square foot, or there's always that one. I kind of sit back and listen to the conversation and see where they're going, check their tone with me. Are they talking down to me anyway? And then I'll determine how I respond and what I respond with. A lot of it is, big words in an industry and they're like, oh, you do know what you're talking about. And then it completely changes and goes back to if I'm talking to somebody in Morgan County. It's interesting. I really would, I'm sure we'll get to the programs we're doing, but one of the things I would like to do with the programs with high school students and the trade industries we're focusing on is creating a group for girls and girls in trades, and really bringing in mentors like Celia from Cargill, who runs the plant and works with kind of that environment, and mentoring them through how to have conversations and self-confidence. Because we, in our conversations, I guess one of the high school girls, she was in a pretty male-dominant environment, and she left it because she was kind of intimidated by it. So really start looking at that piece, because trade industry, women are better at welding. There are lots of things that women are better at in the trades, and it's just smaller hands, a slower pace, more patient, just things like that. So we want to encourage that and not kind of help them break through those barriers so that they're not intimidated by men.
Well, I'm just laughing because I was a welder. Like, what you're saying is she's taking too long. You need to hurry up. Let's go. Because I was a welder.
But the beat at the end is so much better than the one you did because
I'm sure it is. But you said get women involved in more trade industries. Like, do you have one specifically? And then I'll let you talk about kind of like the
No, I just think in general, women in trades in general is lacking. And I think a lot of it is because it's male dominant. And that's a shame. So I think that there's something that we can do to encourage younger girls to be more engaged with the trades and give them business knowledge so they don't have to work with men. They can go out and start their own business and have all women working, doing welding or plumbing or electrical. My husband was a home inspector, and they talked about women home inspectors are rare, but there are a lot of single women that don't want a man coming in to a house to inspect it before they buy it because there's just that comfort level of a stranger. And so if you can get women involved in that, and you know that a woman's going to come in and inspect your home and do a great job, I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes go back to the social media, the society, how they do it. Like, and this is just how I feel. I don't know if it'd be true or not, but I think they look down on it like a woman. Like, you should have an office job. Like, you should have this.
You're not strong enough to be doing these trades and stuff.
You guys, I've got my best friend's daughter wrestles. She is a state champion in Oklahoma, 6A, and she's probably 5'9", and she wrestles 155. She'd knock you both to the floor in like 10 seconds flat. I guarantee it. She sends me videos, and so. But I think there's that stigma. I totally agree. Mm-hmm. But I think it's changing. I hope it's changing, and I think hopefully it's more than just strength. I hope it's just smarts and everything about it.
Tell me about this project that you got going on, because I think it'll lead on to get a lot of women involved, like the VR grant you guys got. Yeah,
so we got a grant to create a mobile virtual reality lab focused on trade skills, and we'll take it to the high schools. It started with the state put out a grant to encourage apprenticeship programs in all throughout the state, and there's a low participation in high school students. And as we kind of researched it, we found that most apprenticeship programs or employers in Morgan County that would be eligible to have apprenticeship programs, you would need to be 18 to participate. And so by doing the virtual reality piece, we discovered there's no age restriction. You could be a freshman in high school, you could be in middle school learning a trade, so that by the time you graduate high school, you can participate in an apprenticeship. Or even over the summer, once you're 16 probably, you could be actively participating in an apprenticeship program. The other piece of that is businesses can get tax credits and grants and incentives to create apprenticeship programs where they receive a portion of the salary they're paying the apprentice back. So it's encouraging that as well, so that we can get a strong trade industry in Morgan County. So we'll be, hopefully after the first of the year, launching that within the high schools. We've already been talking to the counselors and superintendents and identifying students. I think we have 10 that are already interested and ready to go after the first of the year. But we'll bring in the Quest VR headsets, and they can learn electrical, plumbing, construction, commercial maintenance, and then they can also get OSHA 10 or 30 certified by doing it.
Would you say that that's one of the biggest things that probably like businesses, because they have to train them. Mm-hmm. So that's probably going to like time for them. It's going to take like a week or two, whatever their training is, to get them trained. So what I'm getting at is it could like accelerate the time that they actually start working once they're
absolutely
done.
And it could increase their entry level too. They could be, entry level might be down here, but by having these different certifications, they could start up here, which is also higher pay, and so they can enter the workforce at a more secure spot, or maybe at a higher level than they initially could.
And it's also like that safety aspect too. Like for electrical, like I don't want to shock myself or anything, so let me just learn first, like in the virtual reality world, before actually going out there and potentially injure myself.
Yeah, and we've just doing the math, it'll save employers thousands of dollars by engaging with us and identifying future employees. Electrical being one, there are some, in talking to a couple of employers, they can do on-site electrical training. When they do that, if somebody's shocked, they have to send them to the ER, which is thousands of dollars. Every time they're shocked, doesn't matter how small. So by doing this, they'll come in with I think electrical is like 60 hours of quizzes and the VR training. And then we're going to partner with local tradesmen and women that are masters in their field to help test them on site after it, to make sure that they are getting what they need, so that the hot wire on the VR is actually hot. They know in real life, they know where to locate it. So kind of help with that, affirming that it is a good program.
So after they do the training, they'll actually do like a hands-on, like a real training before they actually go.
We'll have them kind of test out. There's like a test out period where they can,
Okay. Because that was now here's me playing devil's advocate with it. So you have everything's digitally, like with the younger kids. Mm-hmm. So now kids, they're almost my age. Huh? So when they're training, like more VR stuff, because I talk with a lot. So my background, welding, construction. So I talk with a lot of foremen, superintendents, and stuff like this. Their biggest concern right now is that they can't get like good working people, and the ones that they do get are really lazy and don't want to do anything because they're just on their phones and stuff. Do you think this can strike a thing where people just want to be more on their phone now because now they're more, do you know what I mean, kind of?
Yeah.
Because now they're just on the headset doing it, and now it's like, okay, man, now you're sweating, now you're actually going to have to do it, and it's going to be hard, and now they're just like, well, it wasn't this easy in the VR world.
Or like especially like welding, there's a lot of times where you're like in a mud puddle on your back, going under a pipe and stuff, and you can't really get that experience from the
getting really shocked for real. I had a couple of those, and my arms are just like scarred up. So that's the thing. Like everyone says they can weld until you start getting some sparks going down your back or on your arms, and then that's What's your take?
I mean, there's the career exploration piece, and I don't think that anybody that goes through welding or electrical or plumbing, I don't think they're doing it for the VR. They can do that. They can do VR without having to do electrical or plumbing. I think that the students are really interested and engaged in this, are truly interested and engaged. I think VR is just a way to meet kids where they are today. I think phones, it's the way they are. I mean, we had video games growing up, and Nintendo came out when I was a kid, and I can remember spending hours in front of it. I mean, Atari. We have an Atari at or not at my house, but it was a hobby, but now it's becoming a way of life. And I think that using this to meet kids where they are, to actually get them engaged in the workforce and embracing it, is the opportunity that's been overlooked. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Well, the reality is that's not going to happen, but we can take that desire to be on social media and digital and computers to train the future workforce. And they'll always have that. And the training with VR is 75% retention through all trainings through VR, 10% classroom. So, and I have a board member who did some training, safety training that was VR about a year ago, and he said he remembers everything because he was actually in there doing it. And I think it becomes more interesting when doing that. A business is interesting, but a lot of businesses, they go to a business class or like the block with the restaurants, they think it's fun and great, but then they actually do it. And they're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I think we will have some of that with the VR training, but I'd rather they find out in that environment and then go out and get a job and be discouraged right out of the gates when they graduate.
So in the long run, to be better because they actually see if they like it or don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that opportunity too. I think there's a 20% course completion, like add drop period. So if they start in electrical and they get 10% of the course and they're like, I don't like this, they can drop it, no harm, no foul. But at least they know.
And it saves them time and money. And
it saves thousands of dollars to the employer that might have hired them for a role in electrical, and they train them, and they're like, no, this isn't for me.
Do you think this could maybe cause a little bit of friction? Because you said the students can go in there while they're still in high school, get certified on this, and then they go to the actual job, and they might have like a little bit of an ego, because then they're like, I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
I
They'll
did
get shocked
the
out of that real
training,
quick.
and then they get shocked, whatever.
And the first shock, they'll be brought down the butthole. I think that's just human nature. I think that's normal. I mean, I had it when I graduated college.
Is there any way to, like, as like a business owner or anything, to kind of like, I don't want to say like combat that, but like tone it down a little bit from like new hires or anything?
I don't know if as business owners, you should try to tame it. I think your awareness of it is the most important piece. I mean, if you have kids, they're testing limits and boundaries. And I think this is an opportunity to be more actively involved in setting those boundaries and, healthy boundaries as kids grow. I mean, you don't want somebody to come in really timid, and that's almost more dangerous, where they won't do anything. And that's harder for an employer if you have somebody that comes in really timid and uncertain of failure if they're not allowed to fail. But if you, I think, create an environment where they can fail and explore that, but know it's okay. Their entry, they don't have to be that way. Safety is top of mind. I think how the employer approaches it is the most important piece.
What's your take on it, Eric?
No, I think it's good because, it's good for like that new person to have that energy, because I think having a new energy, like in a new like business or job or whatever, is an overall net positive for them, because they might have been doing things the same way for the past few years. Then and here comes like this newbie who has all of these like great ideas and stuff that maybe someone who's been in the industry or whatever hasn't even thought of, because they've just been doing that. They've been stuck in their ways, just kind of doing it the same way they have been. I agree with that. I think that as businesses grow or their desire to grow, they have to grow how they think about the business too, and think outside of the box sometimes. And I definitely think that new perspective and that new person can bring that. The other piece to the program that we're doing is the employers that are investors in MCEDC, which are Morgan County businesses. They're going to be engaged with these students as well. So they're going to know personalities. They'll have an opportunity to interview with them and get to know if they're a good fit for the company too. But I think that's just part of it. I mean, forget having a college degree. Just graduating high school, you exit with a certain amount of arrogance. Freedom. Oh, yeah.
So I think it's just normal.
Since you are also like on the director for the Morgan County Tourism, I just want to get a quick take about the HGTV stuff that was here in the community, because we saw like on the show they did the show like portray like they did all this help for the community and all this stuff, and they helped so many businesses. But you had like kind of the behind the scenes view. Was it actually like that? Did they actually help the businesses, or was it more just like, we're gonna remodel for you and then you kind of just do the rest?
I think that's helping a business. If you're a business owner and somebody comes in and gives you a new facade, it's up to you to take advantage of that opportunity. I think you can look in the community and see which businesses took advantage of it, whether they were directly involved with the show or not. I think there were a ton of businesses that stepped up and said, I wasn't on the show, but I'm taking advantage of this opportunity. And I think they've done a great job with that. But I think the big picture is they did come in and help. They gave a national platform for Fort Morgan. They gave the businesses that are in Fort Morgan a platform. But an experience like that can only take you so far. I think the excitement around it is fading. From a tourism perspective, we knew that was going to happen. 6 to 8 months would be the top amount of time where we could really promote it and try to take advantage of it. But the business's ability to grasp onto that and say, hey, I was part of this and keep it going, that's up to them, I think. And I think that anytime a business is given an opportunity, good or bad, it's how you use it.
Mm-hmm. Were you guys involved in also helping the businesses maximize this opportunity that they had? Or is it kind of just this information is there, you guys got to do what you want to do with it?
The goal for tourism is to market Morgan County to those outside the area. So we really pushed the airing of the show and the different episodes. We pushed those out to areas outside of Morgan County, and we work with a marketing team that they pull data for us, and they identified areas across the nation that search Morgan County and Chicago, the greater area of Chicago. They do a lot of searching in Morgan County, Colorado.
Really?
And I think it's traveling from the Midwest on 76 to the western slope of Colorado. So we took advantage of that and really targeted Chicago. The chambers, that's where they kind of market that local piece and push the businesses and help the businesses grow locally. That's kind of a chamber thing. Where for tourism, we're looking at bringing people from outside Morgan County in so they'll spend their money here and generate tax dollars.
Okay, because the chamber's completely separate from you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You handle more the outside perspective of things, and they handle more the
local
internal
mm-hmm.
local stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to kind of the HGTV thing, me looking at it, because I was watching the whole thing pretty much from a business side and a marketing side. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of these business thought, like you said, they did all this, but it was more a remodel and a platform. It wasn't this is how you're going to run your business now. And mm-hmm. I think that's the confusion a lot of people got, because they're they got a platform. Number one problem in marketing is get attention. Once you got the attention, what are you going to do with it? And none of them, I don't think any of them really did it as great. Or if they did it, I think they could have done it way better, mm-hmm. because they didn't take advantage of that.
If you find a business owner that likes to be told how to do something for their business, I'd love to meet them. And I say that as a former business owner, it was mm-hmm. really hard. That's your passion. You're putting everything into it. It takes a really humble, looking back, I wish I'd had a little bit more humility. But it takes a really humble business owner to allow somebody to come in or ask somebody to analyze their business and make suggestion to where they're not going to,
Something bad had to happen. Something bad always has to happen. It's usually from something negative mm-hmm. that it comes.
Yeah.
But that's why they fail. It's fucked up to say it like that, but that's why they fail, because
we can cuss on here.
Huh?
I said we can cuss on here.
Oh yeah. Fuck yeah.
Okay.
but
I'm holding back.
But that's why a lot of the businesses fail, because now they're just who's going to tell me and what to do in my business? But then they got all the right to do so, because mm-hmm. you got to know who you take advice from.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they're not taking advice from anybody. They're just taking it from themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's where economic development has the opportunity. We're moving forward to try to find a way to offer advice without telling a business they need it. And so looking at the financial piece, every business could benefit from it. But if you're not open to receiving it or opening your books up to have them analyzed just on your own, open your checkbook. Sometimes you don't want to look at it. So the business is not any different. But we're we're really trying to find a way to provide tools, specifically financial tools, to businesses so that they can do it on their own. offering, maybe a Saturday boot camp where you go over high level stuff, but then there's that additional support on the side if you decide you want it, or we'll find you experts that can help you with whatever it is that you need. But it's really hard to go in and I walk in business all the time. I'm like, man, I wish they would do this. I know I can't go in and say that to them. I wish I could, but they, give me the middle finger and
exactly.
can go ahead and walk out the door. So,
but that's when you know those businesses they're not gonna thrive. I think.
Yeah.
They're only gonna come, and they're gonna be the ones that go in waves, or they might be the businesses that are here. I've been doing this for 30 years. Like, I don't need any of that thing. That's the problem. There's gonna come somebody new with innovative stuff and just gonna sweep the rug underneath you.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, like in telling business, is if you want to go far, take others with you. If you need to go fast, go alone. So it's like everybody wants to go fast. So they're like, no, they don't want to get help from other people, and they just want to retain it. Like, you need to build an army, I think.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I've just as a former business owner and even now in economic development, I now have 2 staff, and it's amazing. I thought I was doing great. I thought I was killing it. And I sat down after getting them both onboarded and trained to where they're on their own doing stuff. And I went back to my to-do list. Like, I sucked. Like, my head was barely above water. But that's just how it is. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, you need people. You need them. You need a solid team to help you stay above so that you can move forward. I mean, looking at what we're doing now, if I wasn't able to bring on Stacy and John, I would not be able to push the grants forward. I wouldn't be able to do the program. It's impossible. So I think it's important that if you truly want to grow your business, you have to look at your team. And sometimes, unfortunately, as a business owner, that's taking less for a while so that you can eventually make more.
What's something in your business life or your personal life that has kept you from moving forward? Like, say, like doubt, like other people, like what's one thing you'd say?
I'm kind of stubborn, so I don't know.
Because that's been a problem for me, like stubbornness.
Like, maybe that's it. I don't know.
I think I know what I'm doing,
yeah,
and I think I'm doing it the very best, like of anybody else, and then it's my way or the highway, and then it's like, no, actually, you're not that good, dude.
Yeah,
got to take that step back, and it's like, dude, no, you're not that good.
I maybe agree with that, especially the flower shop. While I did a lot of great things, I think my stubbornness prevented me from asking for help from somebody outside or their opinion. I think I'm over that now. I mean, I'm still stubborn, but I'm not afraid to ask for help or give somebody else a spotlight, or as long as the job's getting done, I don't care whose name is on it. I want it done. I want to see it happen in the community, and I want to see it like benefit the community and lift everybody up.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, because for me, it's like I feel like I'm stubborn, like too. But I think there's times, I guess, to be stubborn because like I think I got this probably from my dad, but he's always just like I want to see you doing it before I'm going to listen to you. Like if you're not seeing them do something and they're telling you like, say, you need a website, Kristin, you need to be doing all this, and you need to market, and you see them and they're not doing anything, you're just like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I really should listen to them.
I agree
Maybe
with that.
From somebody else.
Yeah.
Listen to strive. I think we should strive to people like who we would aspire, I guess, to be. Like,
or someone you look up to.
Yeah.
So because even if you're at the top of your field, whatever, there's always going to be someone else that you can look up to and be able to chase, because if you think you're the best in your industry, then you're not the best.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to stop to keep, you're going to keep yourself from getting better and striving for that top spot. Yeah,
it's really hard to take advice from somebody that's kind of equal to you in your role. They're telling you how to do it, but like you're not doing it. Why would I listen to you?
There's a great friend, Joshua Youngs. He told me this a while back ago. I was like, how do you find the right person to hire? And he's just like, the biggest problem is that we always want to find a killer to be on our team. He's like, the problem is that a killer doesn't want to be on your team. The person that you hire isn't going to put the same output as you do, because I mean that's not how it's going to be. Like you said, someone equal, they want to go work with somebody higher, right? So, and that one, it was a good one to swallow for that one. He told me, I was like, oh,
yeah.
you're right.
That's the first step. Like, they're not gonna want it as bad as you want it.
Yeah.
And then when you hire someone, you're like, no, I want someone who wants it as bad as me. But it's like, no one's ever gonna want it as bad as you. Like, no one's ever gonna love your business as much as you.
Yeah.
No one's gonna love your project or whatever as much as you do. Because you gotta take care of it like your baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are some things that you see, like in Morgan County area, now that you're in charge, the director of this, that needs to be addressed or that needs to be evolved or changed? Or
I think what we think we deserve. I think that something I've noticed a lot is we're rural, we're an ag community. We're not going to get that. Why not? I think our perspective, just the general perspective, we talk about this in tourism a lot. If you live in Morgan County, you drive it every day. If you were just take a random picture of something, what would it be? A cornfield. It might be a dilapidated building that is an eyesore for you on a daily basis. If a tourist comes here, they're going to see all that, but they're not going to take a picture of that. They're going to take a picture of Rainbow Bridge or the bandstand or all the people at the car show. And so that stuff's happening here. It's just not what we think of on a daily basis. And I think that perspective is something that we could all work on a little bit, of how we see our backyard and how we tell our story, so that when we're telling other people about Morgan County, they're like, I want to go there. I want to bring my business there. I want to visit there. I want to spend my money there. So from tourism, we've actually had this conversation a lot, and we always need that 60-mile expert. I can tell you this, but I live here, so it's worth whatever. But if we get somebody that's from outside the area, that 60-mile expert, and they come in and they talk to you about it, you might start to look at things differently or be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I was talking, we were talking, and I said, I'd love to do like over the next year, quarterly sessions where, how do we change your perspective? How do we make it so that you are bragging about living here, and not so more people live here? I mean, not so the more people, like everybody from the Front Range is moving here. That's not the goal, but it's just so that when you walk into a store or a restaurant, that customer service is also elevated because the person working there is excited about you coming to visit them in Morgan County. And how do we do that? How do we, for everything? Because it kind of shifts. And when you if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at seem to change. Mm. And so if you look at, housing coming in, quality of housing, I think we deserve better. New construction. I think we deserve really good new housing, not just houses to get by. And I think that is something we could all work on. And so I just think that perspective of what we deserve and what we have.
That's interesting. Yeah. Just the perspective of stuff, because you can always have someone like you said, someone's always telling you like, hey, you should do this, but you don't listen to what someone else that comes and tells you. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting, like you said, you should be proud of like where you're from and stuff. Most of the people, if you listen to people, like they're always complaining like, oh, Fort Morgan, like, oh, this. And
it smells.
It smells. And it's like,
it's ugly.
And it says all this, but then the thing is like, well, why don't you leave then? Like,
yeah.
But then if you
it's great.
And then if you go out and then you talk to people that are in Greeley or Denver, they're saying the same thing. They're in their same neighborhood. Like, I never got out of this place. I mean, that's always going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Why do you think we're like that as humans?
Yeah. I'm a boomerang. I just didn't go all the way back, but I grew up in Akron. I left for the reasons it was small. I didn't like it. It had nothing for me. But as I got older, I realized that, small towns are not that bad. And I needed that in my life. And so when I came back to the area, I ended up in Sterling, but then eventually moved back to Morgan County. And my husband's from Baltimore. So when we started dating, I was in Sterling, and I was like, if you want this to go anywhere, you're moving out here. I'm not moving back to Denver. And he's like, oh, okay. And he, we kind of talk about it every once in a while, but he's like, we're never moving back to the city. Like, not going to happen. So there, we have that perspective, but we still have to remind ourselves that it's a great place to live. And I actually added our website. It's living in Fort Morgan or living in Morgan County, and the top of the page says, what's that smell? And I highlight that it stinks here occasionally, but that's about living here. It's something we should be proud of because we are an ag community, and that's something to be proud of. But in that comes the different smells because we're manufacturing and producing products that the world needs, and that's something to be proud of. And so I just think that perspective of not only living here, but what we deserve and what we want here.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was actually listening to something the other day. I think it's like 80% of people or something like that don't know the process of what it is to get like meat. So then, like, you come out here, they're like, they're complaining about the smell, like, oh, like, yeah, they shit, yeah. You know, it smells like the cows, but it's like a lot of people don't even know the process. They just go into their Sam's Club or wherever it is, their Costco, and they just buy their Impossible burgers,
their organic chicken.
Yeah,
organic chicken. They don't know how the organic chicken lives, you know. So it's like.
Yeah. Even now, right now, it's fertilizing season. So you drive down the interstate and the smell lasts a little bit longer, or it's just out during the day, especially, you know, you spread the manure on the fields to fertilize them, and then it's hot or it's cold and it's in the air. Growing up, my cousins, they were in Denver, and they grew up in Denver, and I don't know how it came up, but milk and eggs, they thought just came from the grocery store. No idea.
They just make them in the factory and they send them.
Well, they do, just not the organic ones. They make some. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. No, it's a problem.
That's huge on some of the where people don't even know where they come from. You know, I love that subject. 'Cause once you started, like, do you know what's in the Impossible burgers? You know, they're actually going out of business because a lot of shit. But that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm wanting to move back to the ag community. Is I wanted my kids to know where their food came from, and I wanted them to see, hopefully be hard workers, but see men as hard workers and getting dirty, and not just, you know, the fancy city life where there's minimal dirt and, you know, farm animals are almost non-existent anymore. But I really wanted them to experience that and see it and know where everything comes from and be a part of it.
How necessary do you think it is, though?
For my kids?
For kids in general.
I think it's vital. I think if they don't become an active part of all the processes that they get things from, it'll eventually go away. And I think that's the worst case scenario. I mean, we're seeing with the trade industries now. It was something that there were so many at one time, and it had a label that wasn't ideal. And so you were discouraged not to do it, but now we're scrambling to get it back. And if that happens with agriculture, what does that look like?
You have a different appreciation for it, too.
Yeah.
Because like my dad has a ranch and stuff. We butchered cows and stuff there too, and just like going through the whole process, you learn to just appreciate everything.
Oh yeah,
like, not just like, oh, it's because good healthy meat, but it's like spiritually too. It's like there's some level of appreciation there that's you can't really reach with anything else.
Yeah, my dad's family started on a ranch in Nebraska, and it's now a very large operation. But I remember going there as a kid and bottle feeding calves and going out to the chicken coop and collecting eggs. And there's a part that, as a child and even as an adult, I'm like, that doesn't exist for everybody. Like, how is that not normal for everybody to go out there? And I grew up on a farm where I had horses and, you know, the geese running around and all this stuff. But there are people that never experience that. And that's shocking to me. I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I was literally out there this morning, and I took my daughter with me, and I make her like, I just be like, you want to go? And she goes. And
it's fun.
And we butcher an animal, like, here, grab the leg, hold it up, and you're helping me. Like, and I know it's kind of weird, but it's like, no. They need to know what hard work looks like and appreciate those things.
It's not,
and the biggest thing is I always, there's a lot of people I say they're farmers, ranchers, like, I want to see them grab a chicken. If they can't grab a chicken, like you ain't real. Like my son, he's 2 and he grabs them.
Yeah,
he grabs them by the feathers and just grabs them.
So Brush just passed that chickens are allowed in the city limits. So next year they'll write in the code that we can actually have we couldn't have chickens before. And my son, my youngest, wants chicks. And I'm like, they become chickens, right?
We're gonna eat forever. And we're gonna eat them, right?
But what's funny is, so we've been I've been pushing it, and it got on the ballot this year, and I was so excited, and even more excited when it passed. But I have a friend that has chickens, and so she's bringing eggs. So we had farm fresh eggs for a long time, and the weather's cooling, so they stopped laying as frequently. And then some of her dogs ate a bunch of the chickens, so they just don't have as many eggs. I had to buy eggs at the store, and my son refuses to eat them because they don't look and taste the same as the farm fresh eggs.
Yeah, the farm fresh eggs, you can tell.
He's 7, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to get chickens.
Like they do eggs in the factories, and they're not the same. You can tell just by looking at them. They're way different.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you, if someone wants to get involved with MCEDC, how can they go about doing all that?
They can go to our website now, or they can call the office and talk to Stacy at 970-467-7100. But yeah, we're at the old DMV. So
The old DMV. Don't tell them that.
the old DMV. Well, no, the old DMV is not the DMV. Stop coming in.
That's great. No, I appreciate it, Kristin. Thanks for being on, and
thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And guys, remember that an act of rebellion is the question.